thought that Megadeth could go on with their goals a lot better with a different person in tow, and they did. You know, they got a lot of great guys who are more suited to what they were trying to do.
The iconic Marty Friedman of Megadeth now, at the age of 62, is finally revealing the truth about his split from the band. From tensions to creative differences and quest for artistic freedom, this is Friedman's chance to set the record straight. Join us as we unveil every detail. Marty Friedman left Megadeth just while he was a young artist. After being silent for a few years, he finally decided to share the truth about his time in Megadeth and the tensions that took place in the iconic band. There is no doubt that the band brought him global fame, however. For Friedman, it did worse to his talents and creative freedom. Aside from that, the whole pressure from the band in trying to maintain a specific metal sound clashed with his evolving musical interests. Ultimately, he decided to choose artistic expression over commercial success, leading to his departure. Following his departure, many other details unfolded. Even while some fans hoped for a full-time return, Friedman remained focused on his path, proving that success isn't just about fame, but staying true to one's passion. Martin Adam Friedman was born on the 8th of December, 1962. He is recognized most times as an American guitarist, best known for his time as the lead guitarist of the thrash metal band Megadeth from the period of 1990 to 2000. Aside from that, he is also recognized for performing with Jason Becker in Cacophony between the period of 1986 to 1989 before joining Megadeth. In addition to his achievements in these bands, he also has 13 solo records and tours and is known to have lived in Tokyo since 2003. Apart from being an iconic guitarist, Friedman has made a significant mark in TV shows, especially in Japan, making over 700 appearances on various Japanese television shows, including Rock Fujiyama, Hebimeta-san, Kohaku Utagassen, and Jukebox English. He has also produced lots of albums with multiple record labels, such as Avex Trax, Universal, EMI, and Prosthetic, among many others. Following the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, Friedman started selling a wide range of his musical gear and accessories that he used during his time at Megadeth and Cacophony. By the break of December 2012, he was wedded to Hiyori Okuda in Yokohama. But what was life like for Megadeth and Friedman? Friedman started playing the guitar at a very young age, just when he was about 14 years old. This was immediately after he went to a concert by the Kiss band. His rise to success as a guitarist was basically due to his talents and crafts being mostly self-taught. It wasn't long after he decided on the path to take when he quickly formed a band and began performing original songs. At that time, he discovered most of the originals were quite simpler to play than cover songs. For Friedman, it was more like even if they get to screw up while playing or make a mistake, they just have a way of claiming that the song was written like that, and somehow no one would be able to identify the errors or even challenge them. Bit by bit, things started looking nice for Friedman and his bandmates as the mother of one of his friends ran an event center with a 2-level stage that the band used as a rehearsal space. Well, it wasn't too long. Their talents quickly spread, and since they were in a rural area, people would come from miles around to socialize and listen to their music. At this point, it was more like their rehearsals soon became live shows. Aside from playing for this early band, Friedman formed and played lead guitar in several other bands, like Deuce, Hawaii, which was formerly named Vixen, and Cacophony. Aside from that, Friedman also performed guitar on the 1989 album In Your Face by the Christian rock group Shout, and he also went further to make demos in 1988 for Jet Red. By the break of August 1988, Friedman launched his debut solo album titled Dragon's Kiss. All of these put together didn't give Friedman the amount of success he was about to enjoy in the coming years as a member of Megadeth. Following the split of the band Cacophony in 1989, Friedman decided to join the thrash metal group Megadeth, following a suggestion from his friend Bob Nalbandian. By the break of February 1990, he became an official member of Megadeth. He was able to record an album with them titled Rust in Peace, which was released on the 24th of September, 1990. The album was able to successfully receive platinum certification from the RIAA in 1994 and was nominated for the Best Metal Performance Grammy at the 33rd Grammy Awards. One significant aspect of his performance was that he was able to improve his method of performing scale solos from his time in Cacophony, and by the time he joined Megadeth, he successfully integrated it into the band's sound. By the break of July 1992, Megadeth decided to release Countdown to Extinction, an album that was initially aimed at a wider audience with a more commercial approach, reaching double platinum sales. As a core member of the band, Friedman contributed to most of Megadeth's albums, like Euthanasia, which was released in 1994, Cryptic Writings released in 1997, and Risk released in 1999. By the break of December 1999, just after releasing 5 studio albums with Megadeth, Friedman gave a shocking announcement: his departure from the band. Let's get into more details. The unfortunate news came as a shock to fans and bandmates, as Friedman had his last show with the band on the 9th of January 2000 in San Diego. Following his departure, Friedman decided to let everything out while speaking of what he had to go through before he eventually decided to call it a quit. In his memoir, Dreaming Japanese, Friedman recounted suffering from intense panic attacks during the last months he spent with the band, Megadeth. He mentioned that after he announced to his bandmates his decision to leave, it wasn't long before he started experiencing intense anxiety that affected him both mentally and physically. Things got so worse that he had to depend entirely on antidepressants, muscle relaxants, and a schedule of protein-rich meals and lengthy warm baths just so he could feel normal again. But somehow, while all of these were going on and the conditions kept getting worse, Friedman still kept things going during his performances, although sometimes these struggles also caused friction with bandmates and staff who were unaware of the extent of his challenges and what he was going through while in the band. During that time, he had a severe panic attack and thought he was having a heart attack. Describing what he went through, he mentioned that everything felt like his heart was going to explode, or probably he was going through some form of food poisoning, considering how much pain he was going through at the time. Things got so bad that he even fell off the couch one time and couldn't move, with his heart racing rapidly like he was going into cardiac arrest, alongside severe palpitations, which were so strong to the point that they hurt the muscles in his chest. With everything he thought in his head, it was more like he was having a heart attack. Immediately, someone had to roll him to the emergency room just while he was shaking rapidly, like someone having a seizure. While all of these were going on, a doctor confirmed Friedman had a severe panic attack. Immediately, the medical team called for Megadeth's tour manager, and something shocking and annoying to Friedman happened. By the time the manager arrived, he asked if Friedman was going to miss the tour. All of a sudden, Friedman heard him and responded in anger, saying that he can't walk, he is flat on his back in the ER, shivering like a moron in the middle of the Arizona desert without any clue of what was happening to his body, and somehow it was like all they cared about was the tour. So Friedman angrily shouted that the tour wasn't happening. Although later on, Friedman agreed to perform, but doubted if he could physically do it since he couldn't even stand up straight. So somehow, playing the guitar was going to be a big struggle. At this point, he had to practice walking with aid, and by the day of the show, he was able to walk on his own, although slowly. Well, like a shock to everyone and the team members, as soon as he started playing, he was back in full control, like nothing had ever happened. His performance was so full of aggression, and he was able to pull off his normal stage moves without even pausing or feeling restricted by the physical challenges he was going through. To his bandmates, it was more like 1 minute he was stricken with anxiety and was unable to walk, and the next minute he was right there standing and tearing up the stage like nothing ever happened. While speaking during another interview, Friedman further explained why he made the big decision to leave the band back then. According to him, he mentioned that his decision to leave the band came as a result of the fact that he needed the creative freedom to make the kind of music that he was passionate about, which is more of the Japanese pop music. While speaking, he further described how he most times finds himself touring with Megadeth, and in his hotel room, he would be listening to more of the Japanese music. As time went on, his interest in J-pop grew bit by bit, and somehow, he started enjoying his band Megadeth less. To Friedman, it was more like he was busy making money from his fans who wanted just to see him play, unknown to them that he was not into the sound that he was playing, as it didn't sit right with him at all. Friedman went further to explain how he simply outgrew metal and the sounds they were producing. He further explained that at some point, the band's music began to bore him. This was more like he was not enjoying just what he was playing. While speaking, he described how he would go play at shows for the band at night and would end up telling himself that what he was listening to from Japanese pop was just so much more exciting than what he was playing at his gig. At the point where he made the announcement to them about his departure, he initially mentioned that he would leave the group after a 16-month-long tour, but he was only able to stay 3 more months as it was just too much for him, since he was more like someone who can't fake things, and things got so worse that Friedman just couldn't go on anymore. At this point, pursuing his passion and going for the J-pop genre became the whole point of his career. By the time he left the band in 1999, Friedman had contributed to 5 albums that sold more than 10 million copies globally. Aside from the materials he worked on with the band, during his time there, Friedman was able to successfully put out 3 solo albums from 1992 to 1996, with Megadeth's Nick Menza on drums. Friedman later expressed how tired he was of having to hold the flag for classic metal, as he calls it, feeling unable to progress as a musician. One time during an interview, he expressed how much he had always desired that Megadeth could at least adopt a more intense sound. Aside from that, he also mentioned how he would have preferred playing pure pop music over the pop-influenced metal Megadeth was performing then. Well, after Megadeth, a lot was to unfold in the life of Friedman and his relationship with the band. Let's get into the details. By the break of February 27, 2023, Friedman came back together with Megadeth for the tracks Countdown to Extinction, Tornado of Souls, and Symphony of Destruction at the Nippon Budokan in Tokyo. A few months later, by the 4th of August 2023, Friedman also collaborated once more with Megadeth at Wacken Open Air for the tracks Trust, Tornado of Souls, and a few others. When Friedman was asked during an interview about what he thinks about the band's performances during their reunion in 2023, he gladly mentioned that the band seemed to have improved their sound so much as compared to when he was in the band back then. When talking about the first reunion show he had with the band, Friedman mentioned how he wished it had been the first time he played at the legendary venue, and it was a special experience for him. He stated that when one is in a band, especially a band like Megadeth, at the level that they were at, there's a bond in there that is in some ways deeper than family, and somehow they all know what they share, especially himself and Dave Mustaine. Regardless of what the public thought about their relationship, they all knew that the desire to play Megadeth together, to play Budokan together, was just something more like one of those childhood dreams they have always held together. Friedman further emphasized how much playing at that venue together meant to each of them, even though they had to go their separate ways. Aside from that, he also went further to clear the air concerning his relationship with the band and the members, saying that there is no form of sourness between them. While speaking, he stated that what Megadeth did for his career was more like his absolute first step into the real world of the music business, and for eternity, he would be grateful for that opportunity, further emphasizing how there's no form of negative feelings or bitterness, and all that he has in his heart towards the band is just love and truth. Aside from that, he also went further to speak about how he was able to go sober during his time with the band. Friedman expressed his condition, stating that he was completely clean and sober the entire time he was in the band. In fact, he was so clean to the point where he didn't even drink a beer. But long before that time, he was all over the earth. He was so full of life and was into every form of substance alongside all manner of strong drinks and wild parties. He did all of these when he was a part of his first band, Deuce. But at a point, when he was to be a part of Megadeth, he decided to keep clean and join the band on that clear note. Well, joining the band came on a clear note, but Friedman has admitted that when he was to leave, he didn't leave on the nicest terms. It's been decades since Marty Friedman left the band. Recently, he has decided to reflect on his time in Megadeth once again. Following his departure from the iconic band, he decided to build a solo career mainly based on the quality of his work, rather than his previous position in the renowned thrash metal group. Somehow, the two reunion performances in 2023, which he was a part of, demonstrated that there were no background problems between him and Dave Mustaine, as speculated, or other members of the band, despite the conditions surrounding Friedman's departure years ago. After leaving Megadeth to pursue a solo career, Friedman stopped doing interviews about Megadeth completely. And aside from that, he also made it a clause in any contract having to do with a live appearance or anything that required him to be on stage or in front of the camera. He made it such that they can't mention Megadeth backstage or in any of their advertisements, the headline, or anything else, especially whatever has to do with the media. This was more like a clause in all of the gigs and contracts he signed and worked on as a solo artist, and he did this for over 20 years. He also added that he regrets leaving the band the way he did and how he left. But one thing was sure, he said, further mentioning how he didn't want to screw the band over, and somehow he felt like he had no choice but to do what he did. However, he also mentioned that he wouldn't try to excuse whatever he did, but somehow there was no other way out because it was going to happen any other way. Despite what he may feel about his departure in retrospect, Friedman underlined how the split eventually worked out for everyone involved. He described how he was able to do things that far surpassed his time in the band, and the band too, on the other hand, had done wonderful things in his absence. So somehow it's more like a win for both parties. Friedman also discussed some of the internal issues that came up due to monetary factors that influenced his decision to either play with the band for the band's reunion or not. He stated that an opportunity came in 2014 following the departures of guitarists Chris Broderick and drummer Sean Drover. Then, the band's manager at that time, Ron Lafitte, reached out to him. Friedman revealed that the money they offered him was right around the first salary he got when he first joined Megadeth in the 90s. So, somehow, if he knew they were going to price him so low as they did, he would never have agreed to meet with them in Anaheim. The offer was more like, if he had agreed to accept it, he would have been paid less in a week than he made on a normal day in Japan. Looking at the amount, Friedman got angry and told them that he was not going to even consider it. Then, immediately, he made a counteroffer, which was the bare minimum he could accept and far less than what he had received from any of the artists he had ever toured with in Japan. Friedman revealed how Lafitte's proposal for a collaborative tour with Iron Maiden was the first move after a Rust in Peace lineup reunion. Well, Friedman stated that, at this point, he was prepared to absorb the financial loss because a reunion tour with the band supporting Iron Maiden might provide him with new opportunities in America, so somehow he was willing to give it a try, since what might come next could potentially be a larger tour than any they have ever had before. As for Friedman, he mentioned that even if they agreed to his rate, the tour would have been a significant success for them, and all they would have just done was agree to it and see the reunion happen as planned, but they claimed he was asking for too much money. Well, seeing what they were doing, Friedman, on the other hand, felt satisfied with his job in Japan, pursuing his passion and earning good money without the drama associated with Megadeth. He further stated that they were too careful to spend money on him and that they didn't even recognize that they had just lost their guitarist and drummer and required him more than he required them. To Friedman, the conclusion of the matter was that he would be happy to do it, but he was not going to take less money than he was already making to do it because he has been in Japan for years, cultivating a career with solid rewards for himself, and not just that, he was making this money for his management and staff too, some of whom have worked with him for years. Unfortunately, Friedman also mentioned that everything was professionally sound and solid, and when the opportunity arose to rejoin the band, he was pleased. Provided he wouldn't be earning less money, he was prepared to accept. However, one thing he refused to do was accept a loss, to become part of a group that, at that moment, appeared to have little to provide musically, given that several band members had recently left, and he hadn't heard anything from them in a long time. Thus, in some way, he was unaware of how significant they remained in the music industry. In the meantime, from his perspective, he had arrived at a stage where individuals ceased to immediately associate him with Megadeth and began discussing his accomplishments in Japan as a solo musician. This was not something he intended to discard for Megadeth. Over the years, going on with his solo career, Friedman has been featured on several albums by other musicians and has also toured collaboratively, including appearances on Tourniquet albums Where Moth and Rust Destroy and Antiseptic Bloodbath, as well as working with Nanase Aikawa on Are You OK and accompanying her on her 25th anniversary concert tour. In the year 2010, he established a record label with Avex Group named Gokukara Records. At the close of 2012, a complete album featuring heavy metal renditions of Momoiro Cloverseed's tracks was launched by a group called Metal Clone X. Even though the band members stayed unnamed, Friedman was acknowledged as the producer and arranger for the label. Friedman toured for concert performances of the original soundtrack of Bravely Default in 2013, in addition to the Budokan concert tours, among others. Along with these tours, he launched his album Inferno, which he toured around Europe, visiting countries like Norway, Poland, the Netherlands, and Germany. By the break of 2018, he worked with Gene Kinjani, Kenkin, and Koji Fujimoto from Man with a Mission on the track The Perfect World, featured as the main theme for the Netflix original anime series Be the Beginning. Aside from all these, Friedman makes appearances on Japanese television and contributes as a columnist for Japanese music magazines and national newspapers. There's no doubt that he has been able to do so well for himself. Although his departure was disappointing for some fans, Friedman's journey shows that doing what makes you happy and staying true to your creativity is important, even if it means leaving behind a successful band. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.